Angels with Dirty Faces. Hello, I'm Indigenous Monstrosity, and this is the Monstrositus one. Monstrositus. Yeah, Angels with Dirty Faces. This is an old 1938 movie with James Cagney, Pat O'Brien, and the Humphrey Bogart. The man himself, back in the days. These are top of the line actors from 1938 and before. And the guys in the back here, they call the Dead End Kids, but they also had a TV show called The Bowery Boys. So Satch, Slip, a lot of them, all of them, I think, is in here, except for they got different positions. The kid who plays Satch, he wasn't in. I think his name was Satch. Could have been Slip, and the skinny, funny-looking dude was Satch. I could be transposing them, but anyway, they're not the leaders. They in the TV show there was a little bit more slapstick, smacking each other. No, it was in here too. It had me cracking up. I made this is my second video because the first one I hadn't watched Angels with Dirty Faces in a while, so I didn't remember all the real details. But yeah, this is funny. It's funny and it's serious. There's gangster stuff in there, but when it's funny, it's funny. It has you laughing. This is not for the moist at heart. Trust me. If you gonna get upset because people are hitting each other and smacking each other around and all of this stuff, then don't bother watching it. This is for people who are interested in seeing something new that you've never seen before. It's old, it's in black and white, but the story is great. And it's so good that, and again, I'm gonna tell you guys that this movie at the end has me bawling like a little baby, and I always said before that it had made me cry, but no, this had me bawling. I was actually sobbing like a baby, and like a woman, man. I was yeah, because it ended in this movie, man, and it's just how well it was written and told. Pat O'Brien and James Cagney, these two inner city kids, and coming up in poverty, and this is what I don't understand about people and these diversity messages, talking about you need to have representation to understand. No, I understand this movie, and there wasn't one black person in the whole daggone film. All of these kids had nicknames like Bim and Stumpy and Soapy and all kinds of crap like that. As a black man, I can't understand that. Really? Really? I can't understand poverty. I can't understand trying to steal what you want if you can't get it because you don't have money. When I was coming up as a kid, of course, I was a little kid coming up in a hard neighborhood, neighborhoods that you read about. Yeah, of course, you can light finger something, you put it in your pocket and you giddy up. But you're not gonna stay around, and that's what this was about. And so how can I understand or relate to these characters? The kid playing James Cagney as a youngster, wow, he could have been his son. He could have been James Cagney as a youth. He played him to the T. His body language, his speech patterns, he had James Cagney down. These two were youngins, and they was troublemakers, and James Cagney wound up slapping this girl around. Not slapping her around the way it was more like slapstick what Bud and Abbott did to Lou Costello and Bud Abbott used to do to each other, smacking each other and doing these little head gestures like the Three Stooges, that type of slapstick thing. Now they slap you across the cheek and go up your nose and down your forehead and all kinds of woo 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 type of crap. Well, they didn't do the woo 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 part, but they did all of the slapstick. And he did this to this girl as a kid. This girl came up there talking about Rocky, you're gonna get this and this and that, and so Rocky jumped up in her face, went across her face, grabbed a hat, pulled it down over her head, and walked off with it with Pat O'Brien. Well, not Pat O'Brien, they was kids, so the kids that represented them as youth. Uh, they walked off, and she turns around and pulls her hat up, and goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna get you, Rocky Sullivan. You just wait. I'm gonna get you." And it was great. It was great because I can see it. I can see it, man. I love that story to death. Ever since I was a kid, the same response. So how, if you could watch something and every time you get the same reaction, that means it was a really well written story. Because you can understand the plight of all the characters. So anyway, these two, they go off and they wind up in a train yard, and they break the lock on one of the freight cars, and they get in there. So because Rocky looked through a crack in the door and he seen that they had fountain pens in there and that they could sell them, make some money. So that's what he figured he'd do. They broke the lock. Pat O'Brien tried to tell him, "Nah, why should we do this, Rock? You know, we usually take food and stuff like that when we need stuff." He said, "You mean we can't use money? These things we can sell them." So he was one of these guys who had a lot of power. He wasn't letting nobody dictate what he was gonna do. This is what I tell y'all about in my power video. You gotta have power. I'm not saying use it the way he did, but Pat O'Brien had power too. You gotta remember, he grew up kind of tough. He just he just was a little bit more to the good side of things. But he was still there doing his dirt. So anyway, they grab these fountain pens and are stuffing them in their shirts, and the train yard guard comes through, sees the train door open, and he gets there before they can break north. So escape. So he blows the whistle, and I don't know why they didn't run for it then, but he blows the whistle. Some cops come, and then they decide to make a break for it and try to get away from those mugs. I love that old gangster slang. So yeah, they make a run for it, dropping all of their stolen goods on the way, running underneath the trains, or crawling underneath the trains, and trying to lose the coppers, and they wind up getting out of their train yard, getting to an alley, and jumping over the fence. But no, before that happened, Pat O'Brien falls down, and James Cagney has to help him up and get off before the train, because there's a train coming. So he trips on the tracks, and he's laying across one of the tracks. So James Cagney comes back, grabs him before the cops get there, and drags him off the tracks. A train comes through between them and the cops, and they're able to, hightail it. So, but the cops are still close on their behind, because by the time they get to the alleyway, Pat O'Brien's in front, and he jumps over the fence, and James Cagney is getting up behind him, and the cops are on him, and they grab him, and he goes to reform school. And so after that, they show a montage of him going back and forth to prison for more and more violent crimes, until finally he gets his first manslaughter rap, does several years, and then finally his last bid was for 3 years, and this is where Humphrey Bogart comes in, and basically him and Humphrey Bogart had did some kind of, Humphrey Bogart was a dirty lawyer, and Cagney was had gotten popped, and for the gig that they pulled together, and Bogart had his money, which was 100,000 deep. So He told him Bogart was convincing him to do the 3 years. He'll be out in 3 years. He'll take the money, make something of it, and he'll get it when he'll have it there waiting for him when he gets out. Well, he tells Cagney isn't having none of that. He says, well, you better make sure that all of my 100,000 is there, and whatever you do with my money, I want in on 50-50. And Bogart didn't like that. He didn't like the way that sounded. But 3 years, he'd have a chance to build his money and do all of that. And he wasn't about to go off against Cagney, who was a ruthless killer by this time, and Bogart wasn't. He was the type of dude to get other dudes to do his dirty work. So, anyway, 3 years pass. He comes out. He's on his way to find himself somewhere to live, and he's all decked out in his suit, because back then almost everybody, if you was a thug or you was a businessman or if you was just a person who went to work daily, you wore suits. It wasn't, unless you was just like somebody who was a grocer or you worked in the train yards, then you wore more clothing, regular clothing. But if you was in any type of work and you had to travel, you usually wore suits. Even if you was on the poorer side, uh, it was a different culture back then. So anyway, this is what you have to understand. Different culture. Don't be bigoted. Don't say, oh, this is the patriarchy, I don't want to see this, and they're attacking women and doing all this stuff. If you're gonna worry about all of that stuff, then like I said, if you're that moist, if you're that doused, because it's more, you're not just moist, you're drenched. So if you're that doused, if you love walking in the humidity that much, then don't watch this movie. So anyway, Bogart, he gets out, and he runs across these kids, and you see here in the background, and these kids, they hit him up. They do their routine on him, and they bum rush him, and kind of like they're all over him, and then they just peel off and take off. And Cagney's like, he's smiling at first, but then he said, hold on, something's wrong. And he pats his pockets, and all his loot is gone. And he just got finished seeing Bogart getting 500 deep, so $500. And back then, that's a hell of a lot of money. In the 30s, come on. His wallet is thick, and these kids hit the jackpot, and they're down in their hideout splitting up all of the cash. He's like, how did you get this pigeon? So they didn't know that Cagney knew this spot, and he comes in there watching them down there divvying up his cash. So he puts his hand in his pocket and pushes his finger out and says, okay, get him up, I got the drop on you. So they all put their hands up, and he goes down there, and he does his slapstick routine and gets him his money back, and tells them, like, what's wrong with you guys, man? You never heist somebody in your own neighborhood. You never know who you dealing with. And they was like, who the hell are you? How you know about this place and all of that. So he takes him over to the wall and show him his initials carved into the door. So they're like, what? RS. You're Rocky Sullivan? Get that. We tried to pull the move on Rocky Sullivan. And yeah, man, so it's just a great story, man. They move on from there. He's basically showing them all of the moves, the routines on how to become a gangster and not get pinched. So he's teaching them how not to steal in his neighborhood, how to make sure you know who your victims are, and all of this stuff. So Pat O'Brien shows up, and he's like, yo, I see you already met the boys, and I was just coming to invite them over to the gym, and teaching some basketball and all of this stuff. And the kids is like, nah, father, we don't want to do none of that. We here hanging out, we doing our own thing. They don't want to do that goody goody stuff, especially now in front of Rocky, instead of in front of James Cagney's character, Rocky Sullivan, the great Rocky Sullivan. So Rocky's like, come on, man, get over here. I'll go over there, and I bet you can't beat none of these guys over there. I'll bet you any amount. So he instantly gets these kids on their high horses, and they determined to go over and beat these kids, and they're losing drastically. So they resort to all kinds of tripping, slapstick, rough stuff, roughhousing in order to get the ball. And Pat O'Brien is calling foul, 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 and they're upset. And they're mad at the father for calling all of these fouls against them. He's like, what's wrong, father? I thought you was on our side. So Cagney jumps in there, takes over as the ref, and starts whipping these kids' asses. He's kicking them, tripping them, giving them the elbow and the chin. He's doing all of the slapstick stuff and just smacking them around. And like, okay, cut it out. Y'all gonna play right or what? Or do I have to get serious? Take off his jacket so they know he's getting serious now. He's Rocky. They can't mess around with the king of the neighborhood. So it goes on from there, and you get to find out he's basically building this relationship with these kids, and they're listening to everything he says. The father is impressed how Rocky. He's been trying to work with the father's been trying to work with these kids for so long and can't get through to him, and Rocky comes in there in a second, and they're wrapped around his finger. So he's not jealous or nothing. He's just impressed. He loves it. He loves the fact that him and Rocky and the kids have this rapport, because he's able to use Rocky to help slap these kids into shape. But he has this relationship with Bogart, and Bogart owes him money, and Bogart's connected to this syndicate, and so he goes to Bogart, tells him, yo, I want my money, give it up right now. He says I don't have it, and that he'll get it to him tomorrow. And so he says, okay, but when I come back, I want my money. He says, oh, I'm connected. I just can't, and he says, and I want in on my business, because you use my money to build a business, so I want in on it, 50-50. He says, I can't do that. I got partners. I'm a nobody. I can't just take and give you money. He says, you owe me 50. Whatever you got, I want half of it. He says, but what about these guys? He says, that's your problem, So my deal is with you and nobody else. So now people start following him, and this is what I'm talking about, power too. He sees everything. He spots this kid following him. He goes. He's with this girl because when he finally gets a room to stay in, the girl who rented him the room turns out to be that girl that he pulled the hat down and slapped her around a bit, and she did the same thing back to him. She didn't let her know. She didn't let him know who she was, and then she went up to him, told him how much the room was and all that, got the money from him, and then slapped him and pulled his hat down. And when she went to the door, got to the door, she turned around and said, I told you, I've been waiting 15 years to get you back. And he said, you're that little girl, right? And she said, yeah. And walked out, and he loved it. He loved it. He started cracking up, lying. What's wrong with women today? Why can't they get? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. She was a strong woman. And this is back in 38. This is back in 38. She slaps him and pulls his hat down. And this is the great Rocky Sullivan. She wasn't afraid of him. So y'all women, y'all SJWs, and all of y'all femogenists, y'all need to get off of y'all soapbox. Well, I see it's happening, at least for comic books, but Movies not yet, and that's why I'm doing these videos, because I got something to tell you all about that. But I'm not going to interrupt this video for it. But anyway, so he gets with Cagney, and Cagney and Bogart. Bogart send people to basically rub him out. They set him up, and it fails. He was able to get the jump on the guy. He saw him following. He was walking with the girl and spotted this kid following him. Used the mirror to make sure. He acted like something was in his eye and that he needed a handkerchief to get it out. So he went back to the mirror and acted. He's like, I think I got it. And besides, I've seen everything I needed to see anyway. So let's go. And they walk on, and he leads them away. Lets the girl go her way. He leads them into this shop. And the guy tries to get the jump on him, and it fails. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing for y'all because I really want y'all to see it. So anyway, it winds up getting into the dirt. People got killed. He has a beef with the head of the syndicate. He says, y'all owe me. There was no problem, but now that y'all coming after me, I'm coming after y'all. So he basically gets in. They try to set him up. They can continuously try to set him up. He kidnaps Humphrey Bogart and tells them that they got to give him his cash. Otherwise, and he takes his books for his business. So after the hit failed, the rub out fails, he goes back to Humphrey Bogart, takes his books, and tells him to call the head dude to give him his $100 grand, and he takes him hostage and basically keeps him tied up with the kids in the hideout that the kids had, and he goes there and tells them that if y'all better give me my money, I got the books and everything, I got your boy, and if y'all want him back, y'all gonna have to give me my money. So he has him. I think he has Bogart call him and tells him to give him his money, and so that's what he does. He says, okay, y'all can do me in, but I won't tell you nothing, and y'all won't get your boy back. So they give him his money, and then he leaves, and then they call the cops on him because they got somebody in the department. So the syndicate dudes got somebody in the department, so they call him, and they sick the dogs on Cagney. And but he gets to the house, and he gives him the slip. He passes off the money to one of the kids, and they get away. And this kid is true blue. And this is another part about where you can see he knows his power. He knows everything. The cops come in there, they frisk him, take him down to the police station, all of this stuff, holding him there, and then Bogart gets free, goes to the head of the syndicate guys and tells him, he tells him, he asks him what's going on, that he was being held, and he says, we know Cagney was Rocky was here, I sicked the cops on him. He goes, what? Why'd you do that? He's got the books, and if he dimes us out, they're gonna lock him up. He's gonna dime us out. He's gonna snitch. He's gonna squeal like a pig and tell all of, and we're all gonna go to prison. So they do everything to try and get him freed. They call up his man in the department, and they tell him to let him go. So he's out free. And Cagney goes back, and he goes to see where his money is with the kids. And he had his stash in a hole in the wall. But one of the kids, when he came back with the money, was like, yo, maybe we should just keep it. If he's locked up, he ain't gonna have it. And that was the kid who played the leader of the Bowery Boys. That was Slip or Satch. But he was the leader. He wasn't the leader in this. He was just one of the gang, and the leader had the money. And he was like, yeah, well, Rocky's gonna get his money whether you like it or not. You got something to say about it? And so when Rocky shows up and looking for his money, he's like, so the kid who's always asking questions, his name is Bim in the movie, and he's like, So that's the money that you got, that they say you got in the newspapers from for kidnapping the lawyer. So instantly, Rocky turns around. He says, "You know, you asked a lot of questions." He's all up in his face. This is power, because he recognized instantly people who ask too many questions. You can't trust them. Either they looking to snitch you or they looking to rob you, and that's what this kid is looking. So he turns around. He tells him, "Yo, you keep sticking your nose where it don't belong, and you're gonna get something in it." so he he puts him in his place and then turns around and kind of plays around with him to let him know that I'm serious, but I will kill you. You know, I'll kill you, but I'm joking with you too. You know, it's not that bad. I'm not mad at you. I'm just gonna warn you for now. And this is where people have to get control and know where their strengths are, because that's what power is all about: knowing your strengths, knowing how to use your strengths in order to, because that's what everybody does. Nobody has power. Money doesn't have power. People have it. Money just allows them to buy other people, to get other people to do your dirty work, to have multiple people working for your interests. That's all that means. But the power is in you. So, yeah, the story goes on where he puts his money, the 100,000, in his pocket and pulls his wallet out and just gives them everything in his wallet, and which is a lot of loot. So he gives everybody $50, and the leader, he gives this money to the leader of the gang, and he gives everybody $50, and he keeps $100 for himself, being that he did all of the work for Rocky. So you got to imagine back in the 30s, that type of money is like, it was like he gave them all $1,000 today. Because back then you could buy stuff for a quarter, you could buy home meals for $1. you know, so that type of money was a hell of a lot of money back then. And they come out, they got whole outfits, suits and jackets and ties and suspenders and hats, and they got the wakes, and they're in the pool hall betting and gambling and playing and doing all of this stuff and playing the role. So the father walks in, tries to get him to come in to the gym and do what he's been trying to get him to do, but they're not trying to hear any of it. They're complaining that their legs hurt and that they this and they're that. And Rocky's not there to help him out, so they not having none of it. They seeing this big money works, that Rocky's way of doing things is everything, that being a schlemiel or whatever it is, I think a mook, trying to do a regular day's work, they're not interested. And so he Rocky sends the father money too, and it just, he comes back and he gives it back because he's trying to show the kids that he has honor. And this is what it is: he's not mad at Rocky. He doesn't hate him or nothing like that. And Rocky does not mad at him, or he doesn't hate. They're just really good childhood friends and who respect each other. They're not trying to change each other. They just respect each other to death. And that's the relationship. The relationship of this friendship is shown so well in this movie that by the end, like I said, it just has me bawling like a baby. I just, he asks, because it comes to a head between Rocky and the Syndicate, and he goes in there shooting them up, because really what happens is that they're looking to get their books back, but they can't find it, and they think that Rocky gave the books to Pat O'Brien, and Rocky understand that they trying to get him out of their business. And so at a meeting, They tell him everything that he wants to hear, that they're gonna split everything 50-50, and he's gonna be a partner, equal partner, and but he's slick, he's smart, he doesn't trust anything, so he closes the he's leaving, and he closes the door so that they can hear it, and slips into the bathroom, and they go and check the door and see there's nobody's there. Listen, and then he starts talking about how he's gonna kill him. He doesn't care. This so Cagney comes out and he lets them both have it. The head of the syndicate and Bogart. And yeah, I'm not gonna spoil the ending, but there's spoilers, baby. There's spoilers. It's this movie's from 1938. Y'all don't know about it, then don't listen to the rest of this. I'm not going to tell the ending because y'all have to see it yourself. I'm not going to spoil that part. If you see it and y'all understand the thug life the way I do, and how that's his reputation is all Cagney has left, you know, that's all he has in life is his reputation. How people think about him and feel, and the fear that his name instills in people is all he has, and he's not gonna give that up for nobody. You know what I mean? And basically, he shoots it out with the cops. He's killing cops. He's killing gangsters, and there's a big shootout at the end, and the cops wind up having to use tear gas on him because he got like two guns. He's double fisting at these cops. And back then they threw bullets at you. They would sling the gun in your direction as they pulling the trigger, and the bullets would come flying out. It was just a dramatic way of showing people shooting bullets at each other, firing their weapons, and you have to see it. The cops wind up catching Cagney, and because he killed several cops and several bad guys, and they had to use tear gas on him, and Pat O'Brien had to come there and to get him out. So the the whole thing ends up where Pat O'Brien asks him to do something for him in order to save the kids, and basically from there is is uh is the wrap up of the story, and it ends. It doesn't end well, and for Cagney, and and the kids learn a valuable lesson, and Pat O'Brien appreciates his friend, and it's just a beautiful ending to a thug story, a gangster story, a old time gangster movie from the 1938. And I just love it. Even to this day, I love this movie. It's my favorite gangster movie ever. The only other movie that I've seen in recent years, well, not that recent, but that can compare with it, but didn't have the emotional content, was that L.A. Confidential. It was a really well made back in the day type period piece, and it couldn't do it. This kills it. This movie, Angels with Dirty Faces, and that wasn't even a gangster movie. That was a corrupt police movie. So Angels with Dirty Faces with James Cagney. Please go check it out. I know this ran long. I wasn't intending it to run that long, but this is what happens when I watch the movie. I went way too much detail. I should have just skimmed over it. But it was a really good movie, and it was a beautiful movie that I love, and I'm glad that I own it because I can watch it whenever. I don't have to search the internet to see it. I don't have to pay for the internet to see it. I don't have to pay some streaming site to see it. I own it, and I can watch it whenever I want. There's no monthly subscription fees. I don't have to desubscribe and then subscribe again when I want to watch it. I just pull it off the shelf and pop it in my game or my into one of my consoles or into one of in my Blu-ray player or my DVD players. So please own your products. Don't just stream. Okay, do what you YouTube do. Subscribe, comment, get at me with all of these subscriptions and all of this other stuff, shares, and I'll get at you with some more movies, some old stuff. I'm gonna be doing some old classic horror movies, like the original movie that where the Thing, the John Carpenter Thing came from. It was called The Thing from Another World or something like that, with James Arness. And the creature was a plant creature back then, so I'm gonna enjoy doing that one. I don't know if I own that one yet. That's another one I have to get, an old black and white one. Um, but I could do them, the giant ant movie. That's good, even till today. That's a good movie. So I'm gonna do all of my it from another planet. It came from another planet. Um, it the Thing from Another Planet or Another World is one. It's about a creature on a spaceship. They landed. It's something like it's something like Alien, where this creature they land on a foreign planet and the creature gets on board, and the only reason why they know that something's wrong is because the oxygen's getting sucked up. This guy's got a huge open nose like a pig face, and he's sucking all of the oxygen up. He's got huge lungs and he's sucking all of the oxygen up. So, and he's crazy powerful and he's just peeling his way through the hatches and trying to kill. I'm gonna do a video if I can find my DVD of it, if I have it. I don't know if I have it. I might have recorded it, so I'm just gonna have to get a picture from online, like the Manitou. I don't own that one. It costs $25. I might have to pay the $25 to get it, but I haven't seen that in years either. So, um, subscribe, do all of your things, get back at me, and I'm gonna get back at you with a lot of old classic movies, fantasy, sci-fi, horror, uh, all of it. You're just gonna love me because you've never seen these movies before, so they're gonna be like brand new if you're willing to give it a chance. I'm out.